Welcome to a meeting of your Manatee County Board of County Commissioners. Representing District 1, Carol Ann Feltz. Representing District 2, Amanda Ballard. Representing District 3, Tal Sadiq. Representing District 4, Mike Ron. Representing District 5, Dr. Bob McCann. Representing District 6 at-large, Jason Bearden. Representing District 7 at-large, George Cruz. The County Administrator is Charlie Bishop. Time is set aside at the beginning of each meeting for citizens to speak on any issue. Citizens are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes. Today's meeting is brought to you with closed captioning.
Good morning, Manatee County. Happy 2026. Hope you all had a good Christmas, New Year holiday. Welcome to New Year watching Stranger Things. That was a pretty fun finale there. So we'll go ahead and get started with the invocation from Pastor Brock Patterson from Longboat Island Chapel, followed by a pledge from Kate Rucker, and I have a short reading before that. So we'll go ahead and get started. Please rise if you're able.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly God, we give you great thanks for the beauty of this day and for this opportunity that all of us have for a new beginning. We thank you for watching over us in 2025 and for all the many blessings you provided, and we thank you in advance for what you have in store for us in 2026. So please guide us, all of us, individually, as leaders in the community, and on representatives within the community. Lord, we just ask for the best and the most blessed. Lord, as always, please watch over those who are taking care of us, the men and women of our fire departments, police departments, emergency personnel, and of course our armed forces. Lord, watch over all of those people who make the greatest sacrifices so that we can do what you need us to do. Lord, we pray this in your holy name. Amen.
So today's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Kate Rucker, Human Resources Director, in memory of her uncle, Dr. John Shriver, who recently passed away after leading a distinguished medical career, but most importantly, a love and dedication for his family and the United States of America. Dr. John Shriver served as flight surgeon in the United States Navy, a period that would yield some of his most cherished memories and lifelong friendships. Following a training assignment in Pensacola, he was stationed with a VP-28, a P-3 squadron based in Barbers Point, Hawaii. During his time with the squadron, he supported 2 deployments, one to Adak, Alaska, and another to Sangley Point in the Philippines. While in the Philippines, VP-28 flew market time missions off the coast of Vietnam during the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Go ahead and get started here. Well, good morning, everyone. Quite enjoyed the State of the Chair address last year, first one that we've had. I thought it was a very good overview of some of our priorities. It was a great way to combine our strategic planning, strategic priorities for that year. The good thing is we've passed a strategic plan, the first of its kind, so I'll just go ahead and start us off with a quick State of the Chair address, and then we'll proceed downstairs 10 a.m. for the rest of the meeting. I'd be remiss if I didn't start off the conversation by just talking a little bit about some of the things that we'll be seeing this year. First of all, it's an election year that tends to drive the public against one another, neighbors against neighbors. We tend to be divided, and we're certainly a divided country at this point in time. But I'd simply like to say to the rest of the board, for those who are up for re-election, that I wish you well. And I hope that my goal, at least, is to make sure that we can work well together, irrespective of our political opinions. We'll certainly see a little bit more politicking this year. But I wish you well, and I wish your families well. It's not fun going through the cycle, but it is fun talking to voters and hearing about some of their concerns. But we were all elected for 4 years. This is year 4 for some of us. We've got a year to work, get a lot of good things done, so I'll jump right into it. Starting off with some of our accomplishments from the past year. It was a heck of a good year. I'll just leave it at that. We increased impact fees to 100% of 2025 rates, an effort that has long been championed by some members of our board, and we all finally saw it through to completion. And while we're dealing with some litigation over that, and we're at the very least collecting funds in an escrow account until we win that suit, and that's all I'm going to say because Pamela's going to give me some looks about that, but that's okay. We also cut the millage rate by 0.05, a little bit more on that later on in this presentation here. We also accomplished a lot of great things. As you can see from the picture here, our last year set a goal of opening the Bishop Kennels. We did it. That was awesome. A couple of weeks ago. Under one roof, addressing human needs in our county. A long-standing effort with Commissioner Ballard. This board got it done, and our staff got it done. Mixing fruit farms. Heard about that when we started talking about the acquisition when I first started. Now we just had the FMGLA event there. It was an awesome time. We'll have a library in the future, I'm sure, and lots of great things happening in our community for that part of Bradenton. It's long been underserved, and I'm sure we're already putting it to good use. We also purchased 134 acres of land for conservation and stormwater purposes, properties like Cannon, all throughout District 1 in particular, to further prove to our citizens that we are maintaining our commitment to preserving Manatee County's agriculture and rural heritage, where 2/3 of our county is still considered rural, and hopefully we'll stay that way, but we'll see how that goes. We also cleaned 58 miles of canals, with an $9 million appropriation from our board, with another $1 million that our staff are considering for future canal work. And you can see in this picture here, that's not an uncommon sight for the work that was done in the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Milton, Helene, and Debbie that affected our county, Debbie in particular in this part of town. 58 miles, excuse me. That's insane. We got a presentation. We had a press release last year, and I was originally going to say 12 miles, and then Carmine says, no, it's 58, between both work of our contractors and our staff. 752 work orders. That's incredible. And we have another $1 million that, again, it's up for conversation. It's going to be coming up pretty soon just to provide additional canal cleaning throughout the rest of the county. Light Up Manatee. This has been an effort championed by Commissioner Ron and many other commissioners on this board. It's an effort to help light up parts of our county that are still in the urban core dark, considered unsafe because of a lack of lighting. And this board has gotten it done. We've gone ahead and installed, and there's a nice ArcGIS dashboard about this. This is where I pulled the numbers. So I encourage you to check this out. 1,664 lights installed under Light Up Manatee, with 230 under construction and 1,556 under design. That is awesome. We consolidated MSBUs, the Municipal Service Benefit Units. We put $3 million, which we still have, I think, about $500,000 left, to great use. We're lighting up our streets. We're enhancing public safety and we still got a lot more work to do this year. A couple of other accomplishments from last year, a little bit more on the policy side. We expanded public speaking time at all public hearings from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. Public comments are added and are going to continue to stay there at the end of the board meeting. And we've also eliminated deadlines for submitting written public comment, all in a concerted effort to ensure that people in our county or folks visiting can have an expanded voice and presence in our county. We made a lot of great changes this past year. Some edits to our board rules, following Robert's rules a little bit better than in years past. For the sake of consistency, no surprises for me. We're going to stick to what works. I think it's worked very well. A couple of other accomplishments I'd like to just briefly mention. I'd like to highlight the state of the chair. State of the county address. It's not covered here. It's a great address that our administration and staff put together at the Chamber of Commerce, but it really focuses a lot. I mean, 2+ hours of accomplishments on projects. So I highly encourage you to go to YouTube and check that out. You'll see the full scale of the work that's just been in progress for so many years. When I started on this board, there's a trail project, stems from 2016, and it's finally starting to see construction. It takes a lot of time to get these things done and boards to initiate the process. But at the end of the day, it's up to staff to make sure that when we're gone, because we'll be gone one day, the work continues. So I thank staff for the incredible work, the storm recovery, with just working with us to see these projects through to completion. And that's kind of the theme for this year, is seeing a lot of the things that we have in progress through to completion. So talk a little bit about the work ahead. And I'll preface this by saying I'm just one of 7. I'm not dictating anything. This board drives it. And I'm going to stick to the strategic plan conversations as a starting point, and we'll take it from there. But I'll talk a little bit about some of my priorities. Not a whole lot, nothing new, except one thing. But you'll see a lot of things continuing from previous years. To start, passing a comprehensive plan. We have been this board and prior boards have been wanting to see this done for a long time. So over the holiday, I had a brief conversation with Courtney and Nicole. You should have seen your inboxes pretty soon, if not already, the latest redlined copy of the comprehensive plan. A little bit more on that in a bit. I'd like to kind of continue the conversation on promoting economic development. Not going to do death by PowerPoint on stats, but I think there's some pretty interesting numbers that I think you all should hear about. I want to help strengthen local decision-making, evolving from the expansion of the public voice to doing something a little bit more, but more to start a conversation about that than anything else. Provide property tax relief. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And implement budget process improvements. Keep things simple. My goal is simple, but it's driven by the board. Approve and transmit our comprehensive plan to the state before the summer recess. I say transmit because the state's going to have to take its time to review it. We'll probably get 50 different agencies commenting on it, making edits, denying it. But our staff has been hard at work trying to navigate the restrictions of Senate Bill 180, Senate Bill 250 before that. I know there's Senate Bill 840, and we're advocating for that, which will repeal some of the restrictive or burdensome language in 180. But we can't just bank on it. There's no House bill companion. Somebody needs to sponsor that, and I'm calling on our delegation to support that. This is an issue that's been in conversation for too long. We owe it to our citizens, to developers, to have a clear path forward for development in our county, whatever that looks like. But it starts with our comprehensive plan. So I've spoken to Courtney and Nicole. We think we can get it done, at least as far as scheduling public hearings, giving this board enough time to review, make changes to policy, bring that conversation to the first part of our February 11th workshop, where my personal goal, and I'm just one of 7 here, but just to review the policies. Hopefully you can get that copy of the comp plan today, and just go through the policies, see what you like, what you don't like, we talk about it, and then discuss how we want to proceed forward. I would love for us to live in a world where we don't have SB 180, but the reality is we need to have some kind of a plan for if we don't see that repealed. I don't think it's acceptable to wait another election cycle, another year, and hope and pray that next late spring when the legislature meets, that they actually pass something. We have to have a plan A and a plan B. Plan A, cool. No SB 180, awesome. We just pass this thing and go home, right? Plan B is if we we have to work under the restrictions set forth by the legislature. We just have to do it. And we can always come back and revisit and amend the plans to address policies like 2128 and plenty of others. But the work's been done. It's been done for a long time. I had my first reading of this document when I first started a year ago, with some minor tweaks, changes over the year, different interpretations, assessments of how to proceed under 180. I think we're in a good spot. So you all should have the copy pretty soon, and let's just work on passing this thing. On economic development, I wanted to touch on a couple of things. Again, didn't want to get too much into the weeds on data, but I think it's important to set the stage for where we are today. I was at an advanced county commissioner class with FAC, started it this past fall, and every county commissioner got a handout from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This UF professor presented to us a snapshot of our local economy. Looking at 2014 to 24, they showed us two graphs. Both I thought would be important to share. The first one shows Manatee County total wages, the total wages paid out by a sector. They exclude certain industries where there's only one or two dominant players, like mining, so that's going to be zero there. The teal dots, 2014, 2024 is orange. I highlighted ag, but I'll get to that in a minute. You can see over this period of time, I don't think a whole lot's changed in a year and a half. We've seen major growth in total wages from retail, healthcare social assistance, which is just code for the healthcare industry, accommodation food services, hospitality tourism. You're seeing a pretty big, no surprise there, increase in total wages from construction, and it kind of just balances it out itself. You see a bit of a balance of the rest of the categories. You can see manufacturing has seen some minor growth in terms of overall wages. Admin, professional technical services, banking, consulting services have seen a big gap change. Ag has seen the only decline in total wages. It's not surprising. While 2/3 of the land is agriculture, we all know where the industry's been going with foreign diseases, with lots of generational lands being passed down, them selling homes or wanting to conserve them. I highlight this because we're going to be talking about the county fair, and agriculture is going to be the focus. Last year was Keep Ag Alive in 25. It's still part of our heritage. It's still important to a lot of people. Whatever policy decisions this board makes about how we want to highlight that, promote it. There's a national interest in protecting our domestic food supply. Come up with any reason you like because you like the land and open space. Ag is still important for Manatee County. So I thought I'd just highlight that while it has seen some declines in total wage payouts, and the next slide we'll talk employment, it's still important to a lot of people here. This one just talks about total number of jobs effectively over that same period of time. Pretty similar picture here. Healthcare has seen increases, hospitality, construction. But what you really see that's interesting is it really peters off when it comes to overall number of jobs, whereas the total wages are a little bit of a different picture. What does all this mean, and what can we actually do about it? People think that this job is about just land use, but that just touches the surface of what we do here. Economic development is about the investments that we make on a daily basis. The infrastructure investments that we make can promote economic development. Multimodal transportation, for example. We've heard a lot from from developers promoting infill and redevelopment, that they need public transit, they need multimodal. Do you know that the National Association of Realtors says that if you have a trail within the vicinity of your home, you can see a property valuation increase between 2 to 15%. With public transit routes, we can see more transit-oriented development on some corridors like US 41, which we're trying with Vision 41. Better maintenance, even. Let's not even talk about redevelopment. Let's just talk about paving roads. The Strong Towns book was a pretty good read last year. One of the things that I picked out from it and through my experience this year showed that if we can just perform just a little bit of maintenance, whether it's road resurfacing, which helps with stormwater drainage, filling in sidewalk gaps so that families don't have to walk on dirt paths instead of major thoroughfares like they used to on 26th Street West, or even just stormwater improvements where we still need to come up with a plan by the end of the year for. These can make a big difference. They can make neighborhoods feel viable. Think of the last time you wanted to buy a house or upsize or downsize. What neighborhood did you pick? What was your measurement of what was nice? Was it a neighborhood with multi-million-dollar homes, or was it a neighborhood that had adequate lighting, nice-looking streets and sidewalks? I think what people value in a community can be different, but we all value wanting to see our streets paved, our sidewalks fixed, and all that to say we're doing a good job within our CIP of this, but we can always do a little bit more. So our road resurfacing falls a little bit behind some other counties. Sarasota, just south of us, dedicates about $15 million a year. I'm not talking about the IST, they have that too. But we can do a little bit better this year, and that's something I'm going to be focusing on this year. $4 million, we can do a little bit more to increase that this year and just focus on the core function of government. Just to help make our neighborhoods feel nice, safe again. The other part of the conversation are incentives. It's something I want to address in a small way, but I've had a lot of conversations because I'm also on the board of CareerSource Suncoast about how we can change some of the incentives. South of us, they don't even have incentives. You have the privilege of working in Sarasota County. Manatee County, we have a bit of a different approach. We like to incentivize some businesses to come here, but we don't just want to pay you to have an unsustainable business model and then fail in 2 years. One of the things I think we should revisit, and something I've been talking to Josh Matlock about and our staff about, are our job grants. We've got a 50% utilization rate, and less than half of the jobs that are promised are actually delivered. There are some measures that we promote, like 150, every job has to be 115% over the average salary. But the country is shifting the conversation on workforce development. The most successful model we have is actually with Air Products, for now Honeywell, where a prior board offered an incentive to create an apprenticeship program. CareerSource Suncoast worked with MTC, stood up a program with some nominal funding from us, that board, and now it's self-sustaining with employer buy-in. They've invested resources. There's no more money going into it from the county, but it's training aluminum welders. The president has a goal of 1 million apprenticeships by the end of the year. And I think if we have enough local governments working together, thinking a little bit beyond what we typically do, it's not just about the school board, we can see growth in this area. We can promote real workforce development. And the beautiful thing with apprenticeships, in my opinion, is at least with CareerSource Suncoast, if we partner with them, we're not managing anything. They're taking on the overhead. They're accrediting the program, and we're just providing a one-time grant to get them connected with an employer and get things started. It creates a pipeline of future employment. The market does its thing. Businesses start to see that we're serious about addressing workforce gaps. The incentives we have today are table stakes. You go here, you go to Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, everyone's doing the same thing. I'd like to do things a little bit differently, and it's not that big a lift for us to change it. And of course, we still have to see some things through from last year. If I have to write the LDC myself, I'll do it. I don't think I have to, but I still want us to see through a couple of LDC changes, eliminating minimum lot sizes and parking ratios. We can enable a market-driven approach to allow developers to come to the table with better concepts that are not restricted by legacy forms of code and zoning. It's just about letting the market come to the table with good solutions and fill in the gaps in our county. And of course, I want to continue the conversation around adopting and exploring form-based code. But just to preface, we have a lot of work to do still. I know our February workshop is going to be focused on planning, but I at least want to continue that conversation this year. Perhaps we can adopt something next year, but we have to continue that conversation. Strengthen local decision making. If you read my Substack, you kind of caught on to this, but to preface, to reiterate, we've made significant progress on expanding the public voice. We've given a lot of people more voice. There's a planning commission meeting that went 20 minutes for one individual, one item. I think we've gone the other direction in a good way. But every year we still experience the state preempting authority of local governments. That's a trend I see nationwide. I see this when I talk to commissioners in the Carolinas, in Texas, places where they may not have home rule authority like we do. It is not great to be a county commissioner out there. You can't really do a whole lot. You got to go hat in hand to the legislature for everything. If that's what the future looks like, I'm not doing this because our community comes to us. You can't just drive 6 hours from here to Tallahassee and expect things to get done. You can always have people run into me at Publix all the time. All of us do, or wherever you go to shop or walk around the streets. People can reach out to us, and we owe it to them to I think, start a better discussion around how can we return some local control to them. But it's just a discussion. So what that looks like is a county charter. It's a voter-approved framework for local government. It allows residents to establish the structure, roles, and decision-making process of a county government. Counties typically look to this if they want to expand home rule authority, if they want to implement certain policies, which I'll cover in a little bit, and if they want to shift away from explicit state approval for all that we do to more implicit authority. So the state can come in and certainly preempt us like on SB 180 still, but we can still navigate and work around some of the restrictions set forth in statute. And the great thing is any changes to that charter document require not just input, not just 3 minutes of hearing, but an actual vote at the ballot. So what does this actually look like in practice? I looked at other counties. I ignored Miami-Dade because that's a weird one. They can dissolve cities and all kinds of stuff that predates the concept of charters, so please don't look at Miami-Dade for inspiration. But some example policies that you can set, term limits, recall for elected officials, stronger protections for rural areas. I see that in Sarasota, Seminole, Orange County, among others. You cannot set explicit land use policy, like you can't say the FDAB is a thing in your comp plan, but you can generally describe the rules and procedures around how one might eliminate that, change it, or otherwise do something with rural lands. An example is, rather than by simple majority vote, to change that, you can say it requires unanimous vote. You can say supermajority vote. And it's not just a matter of policy, but it's a matter of voter referendum deciding that. And then, of course, you change policy there. A couple of other ideas I've seen, creation of an office of the Inspector General. It's kind of like what the clerk does, but for the county. That's something some counties do. If voters want to see outside audits, someone else do that, or if they want to see the county attorney's office do that. It's something I've seen counties do. It's something I've heard from some of you like to see done, kind of an evolution of Doge. In Sarasota County, they protect parks, libraries, and preserves from being sold explicitly in their charter. Just a sample of things that we can do with a charter. But I'm not asking for anyone's votes or commitments today. I'm just asking that we start a conversation. So I do plan to bring this up at a workshop in the future, March or sometime after. Invite the public to come in, understand what it is that a charter does, how it expands their ability to control local government more so than today, where all you have is every 4 years and maybe the person you like gets in, but then you just deal with the consequences thereafter. I think our county will look a lot different if you had a recall. A lot of the state legislature's bills, when they talk about term limits and recalls, they usually exclude the recall component. They like setting term limits and forgetting about the rest. So I think that's what this year's bill has. Other bills I've seen eliminate the at-large districts. Every county's different. The history of Florida's development patterns have been counties have decided what happens in their communities because they're closer. And Florida was not as wealthy or as large as it was today. And as large as we get, it still becomes more and more difficult for the state to anticipate our needs because they're not here. It's up to counties and local governments like cities to make that decision. It's really the people making that decision at the end of the day. So something to look out for in the future. And last but not least, property tax relief and budget process improvements. Big elephant in the room is property tax reform in the legislature. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the measures. I think we've all had a number of conversations with Tallahassee, with our lobbyist, with the House Select Committee on Property Taxes, did a whole trip up there. The short of it is we've got, I think, 4 proposals, a lot more proposed, but 4 made it through committees, ranging from complete elimination of non-school homestead property tax. So no one's going to see a complete elimination, I guess, to things like increasing the homestead exemption. Until the legislature ends its session, and they'll likely see some special sessions, it's not really worth our time, in my opinion, could be wrong, to really forecast this until we see a real measure from the legislature. So what can we do until then? At our strategic plan workshop, our board talked about making significant and historic millage cuts. What that looks like, I'd like to see us discuss that in February. But we also talked about budget process improvements. And I kind of pulled this from McCullough County and some other counties. League of Cities, FACT, they're all advising counties to get out ahead of the property tax referendum issue. My opinion is that the real issue underneath that voters are expressing is they just want to understand our budget better. You know, our budget process today, you essentially come in for 3 meetings in June, you experience death by PowerPoint, and you know, you just come back in July when we're talking about reconciliation. September, you have hearings, you got 3 to 5 minutes per meeting, and good luck seeing some changes there. It's one thing to have transparent government, it's another thing to have clarity and understanding of how government works. So what I'm looking to propose is a bit of a process change, and I've talked to our staff about this, but it's up to this board to talk about it and explore it. The sections in gray, this is a timeline of the FY27 budget process. Just for clarification, the property tax referendum is targeting FY28, unless they throw out some surprises, but for 27, we're okay. The sections in gray are things that we do today. The sections in orange are what I'm proposing that we do, one thing we're already going to do. As of this month, our staff are already working hard to plan for FY27. We have a planned budget from last year, but they're going to continue to chew that up and present and work towards a budget this year. Rather than wait till June, what I'm proposing is we have a conversation with our staff on February 11th and before then to talk about how we want to hold public workshops about our budget. By way of an example, we held 5 public workshops on a boat ramp. We should put the same level of effort into our budget process. And I'm not talking let's dive deep into every single thing, and you can if you want to, but my goal is simple. Focus on the county millage, explain what it does, explain a high level of what our budget's doing, where the money's going, and collect survey feedback data from our residents. Get their priority on what they want to fund and not fund for this year. And at the end of the year, turn it into a self-sustaining survey we just send out. So this would be the most expensive year for us to do it, expensive in terms of effort, but we just make this into a citizen-like survey that Sarasota County and others do every year. But we got to get the ball rolling. So my goal is we discuss the parameters of what those workshops will look like. We at least get some head nods because Courtney is able to at least put together a team and resources for surveys. So if there's no opposition, she can start on that right away. So we can have staff and others to support collecting feedback and answering questions at workshops. But as for the content, we'll discuss that on February 11th. And ideally, we have the first public workshop that month, by the end of the month sometime. We do this in the libraries. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of good attendance there as well. My thought process is have 2 a month until April. So we'll just have to figure out what locations, if you like the idea, where to do that. Give staff time from May to June to analyze that data, compile it, and then present it to us. For the first time ever, see what our citizens have to say beyond Facebook comments or emails or public comments here. What are their priorities and what is their understanding of the millage, where they want the money to go, so on and so forth. We'll then continue with the rest of the process. Trim notices get sent in August, and ideally we have a better budget process. One that's not just transparent, but one where we put more effort into explaining as much as we can. It's a lot. I still encourage people to actually read the budget. It's a lot of documentation, but still read it. But at least this should make a difference in educating the public about some high-level things about our budget, and then lead to the creation of a asynchronous survey, if you will. But that's kind of the most important thing I would say left for us to discuss here is the budget process, making improvements because of the heightened awareness of local government budgets between DOJ, between FAFO, between our own DOJ. We owe it to the citizens to talk about where it is that their money is going. And it's not enough to just point to a GIS website or 600 pages of budget documents to say, here it is, go figure it out. We need to pair it with some understanding, and my hope is the workshops can do that. So I've talked a lot. Much of this will continue in conversation through the year. Some of this we do need some decisions and feedback sooner. So while we have a little bit over 27 minutes before we go downstairs, any questions, concerns, comments? No particular order. I'm open to anyone criticizing everything because at the end of the day, this is run by this board and the public. So if you don't like anything, I'm happy to hear it. Carol.
Hate these things. Am I on? First off, absolutely fine job, Tal. I'm very proud of you. especially in how much you have taken into consideration our public's voice. That's magnificent. Our public's education on this process is phenomenal, and I hope the rest of the board is as committed to that. That's basically what I have to say, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Ballard.
So I love a lot of these ideas. The workforce development, really leaning in hard to apprenticeships. I think that that's wonderful. I'm very, very excited about that, making sure that as we provide economic development incentives, that we have the workforce that's trained to do the jobs that we want done. So I'm very, very excited about that, and to see how quickly we can start making that happen. Love the idea of more public input on the front end on property tax. I think that's excellent. Getting those workshops done is going to be a lot of work. I think we need to be really cognizant of trying to schedule them at different times so that, various sectors of the population can have an opportunity, if they want to get informed. So, if we can have one on a Saturday, if we can have them in the evenings, I think that'll be really helpful for people who want to be part of this, but work a 9 to 5 and can't get to a regular meeting. I am intrigued by the charter idea. I'm kind of wondering how you're envisioning a timeline on that. I mean, obviously that's not a this year thing. Takes a whole lot of work and effort and, getting that to the ballot, but it's an intriguing idea.
I appreciate the comments. I'll get to Commissioner Cruz. I forgot to mention this as far as the charter is concerned. Well, thank you for the comments on the public input. That's where all of us ran, really. Appreciate the comments on the budget. The weekends, evenings, I've always seen the greatest attendance at those. As far as the charter, I forgot to mention, it's not board-driven, it's board-initiated. So the process would be workshop, we pass a resolution, and then we your statute requires us to create an 11 to 15 person citizen committee for it, and they were on the show from there for 18 months at most. And so they have to do workshops, all the things to develop research, promote it. But I want to be clear, it's not the board driving it, because I don't want people making wild accusations. We're increasing our salaries by 2 times in the charter or whatnot. But it's citizen driven, and that's generally the approach. So if there's interest in doing the resolution, that's all I'm looking for. Again, at a workshop, no commitments today. And seeing what the public has to decide for it, because there's going to be education around it. Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, I'll be quick. This was great. I mean, I think this is all stuff we've talked about, so it's good to see that there's a little bit of focus on a few things. I think historically, in my 5 years here, you start looking at a few things that are important, like what you laid out, and then shiny things and squirrels show up, and next thing you know, you're chasing things and you accomplish nothing. Having a couple of core kind of benchmark items to focus on, like the comprehensive plan, the millage cuts, and so forth, I think is important to the board, as long as we stay focused, which I guess is a task for you and for Charlie to ensure that people stay focused and don't start going off on tangents. Of the things you said, I think the 3 that most intrigue me, that where the focus would be, is 1, the comp plan. It's been 2 years. We got to get that finalized. I've been banging the drum on minimum lot sizes and parking ratios since my first campaign before I even got on this board. So I do think that's important. I think that's beneficial. I think fixing up that comprehensive plan with or without Senate Bill 180 is important to moving forward. I think there's just too much uncertainty right now that people don't understand. And that goes into some of our incentives, which weren't really mentioned in here, but they're mentioned on the dais. When it comes to affordable housing incentives, mixed use incentives, other things relative to development, the 120% and stuff. They're on the books right now. We just need to fix them so they're not on the books, so we don't keep having that same conversation, because I think everyone's on the same page. We just haven't fixed the page. So it's still where it is at this point in time. So I think those are little things that the board's on 7-0 agreed on most of these things. We just haven't done anything with them. So I think it's important to move whatever we can move forward. The budget thing, I agree. I think that'll be good, especially in this year and next year, to have the extra hearings. Because this year we're trying to make some meaningful adjustments. Next year we're going to be living with whatever does or does not happen in Tallahassee. So I think having extra public involvement, extra board involvement early, instead of just throwing it at whoever the CFO is and the directors and saying, you handle it, and then we just gut it at the last minute is not fair to staff, and it's not fair to the public because it takes their involvement out as well, because whatever gets gutted at the end or shifted in terms of reserves happens behind the scenes and presented in the second September meeting. The third thing was the charter. I advocated for a charter again during my first campaign before I ever got on this board. I proposed a charter in 2021. 6 mayors tried to literally fight me in the parking lot of the convention center. So I would reach out to the mayors first. I'm on board with it. I think we're at the size where it's important. I think to your point, which is a valid one, every year we see the state taking more and more of our control away. So whatever we can claw back. That said, they're cracking into charters. Things like Sarasota's, they used to have a $200 check limit for that, and the state came in. City of Sarasota, with their charter, tried to push ranked choice voting, and then the state came in and made it illegal. So the state has become aware that people are using charters to actually have a say in their own county, and they don't like that. So they're starting to crack in, but there are things, term limits, recalls, and so forth, which I've advocated for and support, that we can do still. And so I'm on board with it. You'll have my support moving it forward. Just realize that's a multi-year process. That's not this year or next year. That's years. You have to get a whole charter review committee. You have to write the whole thing. There's lots of public. It's a long process. That's more like the kind of thing you could target to try to get on like the 28 ballot kind of thing. But I do like the concept. But I would talk to the mayors. They had concerns. In their mind, valid concerns. I guess in my mind, valid as well. It's just a matter of convincing them. Their concern, just so you're aware of where they're going to come at you with it, is once you have a charter and you give the public a say, I'm just parroting what they told me when they were taking swings, is once you have a charter, you can start overriding, a la the parking garage out on Anna Maria, for instance. The county could do something like that. Their argument was, there is a way more than a majority of the citizens of Manatee County in unincorporated Manatee County that do not live in a municipality. So if the right board was in place, or I guess the better term is the wrong board was in place, they could steer the unincorporated voters saying, hey, vote for us to take over development rights for Anna Maria, because then we can build big hotels, which are going to pay a lot of taxes. And when they pay a lot of taxes, I can lower your taxes. And then you steer the unincorporated vote into voting in favor of basically superseding and overriding land development rights within the municipalities. And they won't have the votes to fight that. That's specifically what they told. I even went to Anna Maria, and Mayor Murphy at the time had a whole workshop on it. With attorneys, and asked me to be there just to listen from the back of the room. And that was their core focus. Effectively, it's their only focus, is maintaining their rights. I promised them that wasn't the intent, but they're like, even if this board convinces us convincingly it's not this board's intent, every 2 years is a different board. And who knows when there's going to be a board where it is their intent. So I'm just giving you a heads up. I would talk to mayors, and that was their one and almost only concern that they had. So you'd have to navigate around that, but I do like the concept of it. You'll certainly have my attention if you work on moving that forward in the right way.
Thank you. Commissioner Ron.
Chair, great presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for prioritizing the comprehensive plan. I've been asking for the comprehensive plan to be redone since I got elected, and thank you for pushing this forward. We need to get this done for the citizens and for everything else that happens in Manatee County. Thank you for also bringing to light economic development. You and I talk about economic development all the time, and thank you for making that one of your big priorities. The charter is intriguing, is something to look at. I'd like to get more into that and figure out what that does and how that operates, but it is a great idea to bring forward. based on how we're growing. We know we'll have 500,000 residents here by 2030, so we're going to be one pretty big, sizable county here very shortly. But thank you for your presentation. It was great. I appreciate it. Look forward to helping you bring your priorities to light and whatever I can do. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner McCann and then Cruz.
I appreciate all you have to say. One of the things in the budget that really bothers the people is they don't have accounting backgrounds. So we need to use plain language. We've had government use plain languages before, and it works very well. Rather than having a fund go from a number to a number, we would rather see, a name to a name. This money is going from the parks to this, specifically, because right now when we look at these things, and I brought this up at meetings, we see a lot of numbers, and I don't know what they mean, and neither does the public. So the public would like to know where their money is going, and that's a good thing that you brought that up today, because if we go to plain language, I think that'll help a lot.
Commissioner Cruz. Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I forgot one until Commissioner Raw mentioned it. The economic development. Take a look at, I don't know if it was this month, I think it was last month's Florida Trend. I've had meaningful conversations with SCF about it. I think there's a lot of validity to looking at not providing any incentives for people to come in here and hire people at higher wages, because they're going to hire the best people they can hire and pay them what the market is, whether we're incentivizing them or not. We'll get a lot more bang for the buck long term in our community by making our citizens more workforce ready and more educated, and then people will voluntarily pay them more. We don't have to incentivize someone to pay you 115%. You just need to have a workforce in place that deserves 115%. And then we're giving it to the people. So if you look at Florida Trend, and you talk to Jamie, you talk to Tommy and all of them over at SCF, look at Osceola proper. They have a program where they started at the Board of County Commission level, and it's worked with the colleges, worked with some private sector, where basically their high school graduates can get free technical college or community college access for 2 years or 4 years or whatever it is, because their logic was, if we create a stronger workforce, and when people go to college and they're sitting on campus, they build relationships, they get the mentorships, they get the apprenticeships, they get the experiences and skills, and then people voluntarily not only pay them more, but more companies are willing to go there themselves because they know there's an embedded workforce that's educated there. So you're getting more people opportunities, even if they go to MTC just to take a couple welding classes. It's still a skill that the next Air products can utilize. If you start looking at all the incentives we're offering in economic development, and you counter that to just helping people become more educated so that they voluntarily get paid more because they're smarter and more educated and better connected to the community, I think we would end up getting more bang for the buck. Osceola proper, I'm just using as an example because I have talked to SCF, and it was just I think it was the cover of Florida Trend 2 months ago. There's a long article on it about the commissioner who pushed it and how they managed it, but it seems to be a very successful program. That board has continuously re-upped on that because of the success they've had. So I agree. I think we should look at alternatives. There's other ways of, if you're going to push the money out the door, you can push it out on the supply side or the demand side. And supplying a better workforce, I think, is better because those become people who can move from job to job because they're educated. If you push it on the demand side, they're just going to hire potentially uneducated, unqualified people at 115% just to meet some goal to get $1,000 or something, and then they're going to fire them the next day. Or they're going to bring their own people in, which isn't even going to be residents from here. They're going to bring their own skilled people in that are probably making 150% of what our wage is. Now they can undercut it and only pay them 115% because they're moving them from Jersey. So I think that's something definitely to take a look at, is where can we best utilize this money to benefit not just our economic development, but our citizens and our growing educated workforce.
Well, those are some good thoughts, and I appreciate the commissioner's feedback on the budget, charter, and the workforce development. I'll start with the workforce development thing, and then we're going to wrap up and go downstairs. During the EDC conversations, and just to preview some my personal thoughts, I'm just one guy, right? I do want to see us re-engage with them at some point. I think they made some leadership changes. They might be announcing an interim today. We need some willing partners because government cannot take on that role. We have to facilitate it, whatever that looks like. You know, we have to protect our staff and their time, a lot of which, especially in planning and development services, is dictated by statutes now. But someone has to facilitate, so hopefully more to come there. But yeah, I agree. I think, you know, we've seen cities, counties across the country that try and induce demand. They offer effectively cash for jobs, whether it's X number of jobs, hitting a certain benchmark. It's not sustainable and doesn't quite make a difference, and it attracts the kind of businesses that need that money to have that employment. I think if you look at places like our county and staff and I, we all went up to Pittsburgh to talk to their economic development organizations, and I connected with Miami-Dade's chamber. I have a friend out there. I connected with Sarasota EDC and a few others, and I talked to everyone in our county, Jackie, Lakewood Ranch Business Alliance, or Brittany, board members of the EDC. There's a big demand for employers to want to see a skilled workforce here. They don't just want free money just to hire a couple of people from Jersey or Sarasota or whatever. And that's perhaps not the best way for us to spend our tax dollars too. The best way for us to ensure that the money coming from our taxpayers being spent in our taxpayers is to find some way to expend those resources here. When I look at our strengths and I look at how, for example, Amazon went to split HQ2 into New York and Virginia, or how Air Products came to Manatee County, it's all about the education system to some extent and the willingness of the local government to be flexible with zoning, permitting, and more. County governments don't historically get into education, but we can with Osceola, with the Osceola program and a few others. SCF's considering some things. Our strengths are our education system. We're not the kind of county that has, granted we have New College to the south, USF Sarasota Manatee, but we don't have a big USF. We don't have a UF. We don't have UCF. We've got great schools that focus on technical education. Manatee Technical College, SCF, the collegiate program, which is incredible, leagues away from Manatee Community College from what it used to be. We have high schools now, and the school board is prioritizing technical education, the trades, if you will. And it's going to take time. I'm not saying we're going to see results overnight, but we're going to see a shift county by county, at least with some leadership here, to really focus on that piece and create a sustainable process for us to see our kids want to work here, live here, get educated here, and want to come back and stay here in the future. So I appreciate the comments on that. That's something I definitely want to see us do more of. Last thing in our charter, I did look up the city's opposition. I talked to an island mayor when I first started. You might know the one, about the general concept of it. And yes, I looked at charter examples where that could happen. Then I looked at, okay, in theory, could this happen anywhere? Miami-Dade, I mentioned, can dissolve whole cities. That's a unique exception. Has that happened? I mean, the worst I've seen is a lawsuit in Miami-Dade between the city of Miami and Miami-Dade over the city of Miami establishing taxi cab medallions like in New York. There might be some minor things that are settled in court, but as far as explicit developments coming to the county over the island, because I represent that part too, haven't quite seen that. Not to say it can't happen, but I think we're a board and can enshrine protections in a charter like Sarasota does to avoid running into that issue. Pamela, you want to jump in?
Just a little bit of historical information for the board's benefit. There was actually a presentation given to the board back in 2017 by the Florida Association of Counties, by Ginger, correct. And if the board would like it, I can forward you all a copy of that presentation from 2017. You can actually watch the video, I believe, on METV and see the presentation live for yourself, but I'll share it with every member of the board so that you can have the benefit of the discussion the board had back at that time regarding the options of potentially going charter.
Sounds good. Thank you. My intent was to see if there's someone from FAC or UF. I'm going up there tomorrow, Thursday, see if they might be willing to do a Zoom and talk to us about it a little bit. But that's pretty much all I've got. So thank you all very much for the time. We'll proceed with public comments downstairs. Want to make sure you guys hear that. But thank you all very much for entertaining the room. I appreciate it. So I'll see you downstairs. Thank you.